Right, before we go into the assembly part, just thought to mention one thing. Having looked at the top bearing, I'd assume that will be alright. Now, it's usable, but it is a bit noisy, it's a bit dry. It's not easy to lubricate because it's got it's sealed with a shield. You can get those off, but what I did, I had a look in. I've got my odd box of assorted bearings here that I've kept from various projects, and I find that it's actually a 608 bearing, and I've got quite a few in here that will do the job exactly. So I might as well, while I'm doing it, put the bearing on. So I'll just go through the process of getting it off. To get that off properly without doing any damage, you need a small bearing puller. This is one type I've got here, but I've got another type which is a little bit more dainty, which I'm going to use. So all you got to do really is just pop that there like that, put it on the end of the shaft, just carefully tighten it up. I can use my 2.5 inch cut off nail for that. Just turn it gently. There we go, it's coming off. Bearing puller's seen better days by the looks of things, but it'll do the job. There we go. And that's the bearing off. And then it should be just a simple job. I hope it fits. Yeah, it will. It's a bit tight on the end, but once I've tapped it, I should put that in the vise and just give it a tap on the other end, on this end with a mallet, and that should push it in the right place. So I'll just do that now. I won't show it on the camera because it's straightforward. I'm still here if you think I've gone away. Look at that piece of cake. I'll put the right one on now. That's it. New bearing fitted. So I've done both bearings now. While I was at it, I might as well. So basically, we're all ready for the assembly now. So I'm going to have a break. I'm going to have a cup of tea, and I'll come back and try and reassemble it. Right, back again. I've got my cup of tea, so I can have a sip of that occasionally to keep myself going. I'm going to put the new bearing in the bottom now. One thing to make sure you don't do, which I've actually done before, not necessarily this type of job, but make sure you put the new one in and not the old one by accident, because it's quite easy to do. You put the two things down, you pick the wrong one up and don't notice, and then you get it all back together and think, oh, that don't sound any better. So I've got to pop that bearing in. It's a bit tight, so what I'm going to do, I've just got a little block of wood here, and I'm just going to tap it in with that. You don't want to chance damaging the bearing. Not really very easily, but I might have to get them. See, my bit of wood's a little bit large for this job. That's it, it's gone in now. I think that's far enough. Yeah, that looks okay. Get that out of the way. So that's that bit done. Next job is to put the metal plate on. Can only go one way round because there's 3 screws, and they're countersinked on the outside part. So put that on there. That bearing isn't in quite far enough because I can feel this is not level. So I might tap it in a bit farther first before I tighten it down. I don't think I can push it by hand. Doesn't look far off. I need something a bit smaller than the piece of wood to go in there, but you've got to be careful. You don't want to clout it on the middle part only, because it would put pressure on the actual balls in the ball bearing, so you need something a bit larger to go in the outside, and I reckon a large hammer used to tap it in might be better. Something like this. As I say, if in doubt, get a bigger hammer and give it a clout. I'm doing it gently. As I say, you shouldn't hit hammers. It's not a thing you should do, but it's only a gentle job. I think that's about it. I don't know, it's still not right. I'm not happy with that. I'm not happy with that. That was a bit of a bodge up, so I'm going to get a wider punch, and I'm going to The trouble is, I'm doing it on the bench, and it'd be better on the vise. I'm just giving it a clout on the outside, just to try and get it to go in a bit better. Perhaps the bearing's a bit larger. Well, it's gone in that side. I'll just take it to the vise and just make absolutely sure. You won't be able to see me, but you'll still hear me. So here we go. Are you still there? Because I'm still here. That's the best I can do. I'm not convinced that's gone in far enough, but well, it seems okay. 3 screws, Sorry you can't see because of my hands in the way. Now I was watching James May on the TV the other night, the reassemblers, and he was bragging about this fantastic screwdriver he'd got and how amazing it was and how he had a job to get it. Well, I've got one as well, and I've had mine a lot longer than him, so I'm going to show you and I'm going to use it. That is, if I can find it, which isn't an easy matter in this workshop. Aha, I found it. Now, I've had this screwdriver for many years, long before James May even thought of it, probably before he was even born. And as you can see, it works on the same principle. It's just got a little metal tube and it pushes those two blades apart, actually together I should say, it pulls them apart together and locks in the screw. So I'm just going to demonstrate this. Just put the screw in there and push that in, and lo and behold, eat your heart out, James May, I can do it too. There we go. Didn't really need to do that, I can get my hands in, but I just wanted to show off my screwdriver. And just to show that James May isn't the only one with one of these screwdrivers, folks. I understand you can buy them on eBay, but they're probably not as good as this one, because this one is a very old one. Quick Wedge. Salt Lake, New York, is that? I don't know, I don't live in America, but I imagine it's quite a good quality tool, it seems to be. I just tighten those up. I use in my proper screwdriver, not that thing. Proper woodworking screwdriver always does a better job. Bit more power on it. Do them up gradually, don't do them one up at first, do one up, go round and do a bit each time. That way, if the bearing isn't quite in, it'll gradually push it in. There we go. That's it. You don't need to do it too tight, it's only a retaining plate. I don't think the bearing's going anywhere anyway. There we go, that's that done now. Right, talking about screwdrivers, I've actually got another one of those. I don't know where I can find it. I'll show you here. Now this is a similar screwdriver. I've had this for good donkeys and donkeys years when I was doing radio and television. This is a brilliant little screwdriver. Can't find a screw to show you now, but it's got a fork in the teeth. It's the handle isn't original. That's one of my bodge ups. I put that on 30 odd years ago when the original one broke, but the actual main part of the screwdriver still functions well. And all it is, you just shove it in a screw. I'm gonna have to find a screw to show you because it's so good. Hang on a minute. There we go. So, in my, all I've got is a 3/4 inch 8 wood screw, but I can illustrate the principles. All you do, unlike that one with the tube, you just poke it in the head of the screw like that and push on the end, and it has the same effect, and it forces itself into the head of the screw and locks it in place, just the same as that other one, only a different method of doing it, a fork thing. Brilliant. I've had that for donkey's years and it's saved my life a few times doing these jobs. Anyway, we don't need that wood screw, so I'll put that aside. Right, what's next? Well, the next job is to get the armature fitted inside the end frame. Don't know how tight that's going to be. You have to be careful with this. You don't want to bend anything, so make sure you do it gently. Just tap it gently, as he says, the small hammer. The best way really is to tap the end, put it over a vise or something. I've got my woodworking vise here, so I'll put it in there. You won't be able to see this because I'm off camera, but I can't be bothered to move the camera just for that. I'm using my big mallet this time so as not to damage the end of the armature. That's it. Perfect. Job's done. You couldn't see me do it, but it was quite straightforward. Well, while I've got it in this state, I'm going to put this little ring I showed you initially. It's got a couple of slots in it because it's a bit fiddly when you got it all back together, and I don't think I need to take it off again. That screws on there. It should do anyway. I don't want it for a little protect. Perhaps it stops the dust going in the bearing. Sorry you can't see very well. I've got the camera in the wrong position. Just tighten that up. You can actually use a screwdriver in it if you craft it. Just like that. Another good way of doing it is to get some long nose pliers in there like that. These aren't very good because the ends are a bit blunt, but you can tighten it like that. Yeah, that'll be okay. So that bit's done now, hopefully. I'm still thinking about that circlip. I'm not looking forward to doing that one bit. Horrible job. Anyway, basically now we put it together. This piece, make sure this piece goes in where that just protects the field coils. Just fit that in. There's only one way round. It doesn't matter which way that goes in. Make sure you get this the right way around, that way or that way. I don't know which it is at the moment, so I'll have to think about it. You have to remember that's the one with the switch, which is the awkward circlip. That's the awkward circlip end, and that's the other side with just the post. So that's the smaller one, wasn't it, with the awkward one, I believe. Yeah, so I'm going to pop it in that way. I hope that's the right way. Looks right. Should have marked it really. Good guide to do what we always used to do when we were dismantling motors. Before we took them apart, we just got a screwdriver and made a scratch across the parts like that, there and there, so that then we always knew which way it went back together. That's a good tip, that. I should practice what I preach really. That bearing's got to be pushed in there, so I'm probably going to need to use the hammer or mallet gently on that. You've got to be careful, it's going in, but I don't want to force it. What I'm going to do, I think I'll put it over the vise gently and tap it with a mallet. I won't be a second. I'll have to watch the brush holders. That's it. Actually, the screws that hold it together, we'll put it all in anyway. Right, so we've got that bit. Now we've got to put the 4 screws in. These long screws down there. Got to hope this works after all this trouble. I'm still dreading that fiddly circlip. Actually, I've been thinking, I don't know whether it's even necessary. I might leave it off, because I can't see it's going anywhere with the lock on it. And especially as I always use this router in a table anyway. I never use it out of the table. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to repair it rather than scrap it. Not only was it a good router, and it cost quite a bit of money actually at the time in '88. I bought the attachment table and all the attachments that go with it, that fit it, and I use it all the time. And I leave it in the table. I never take it out of the table. Well, I take it out occasionally to change the bits because it's easier than doing it in situ. But generally speaking, it stays in the table. So I don't think that circlip is going to make a great deal of difference. I might be wrong. But I'm going to try it. These screws are a bit tight, but they're very long and they got a good job to do. As I said before, don't do them all tight at first. Just do it gradually. Do them up so far, and then go and do the other one, and just go around gradually. Don't tighten each one up fully to start with. And just do them just like that, just so they tighten up a bit. There's always one that's more awkward than the others, and it's this one. I can feel that. There you go. And just make sure they're all tight at the end. That's it, job done. Well, that's the armature in. Right, lovely and smooth now, look at that, what a job. It might not work, but it feels quieter by hand. Right, I'll have another break and have a swig of me tea now, while I'm thinking about the next part. Right, before I assemble this, there's just one thing I should point out. When I started the video, I pointed out this pin in this fatter leg. You had to tap it out with a pin punch to remove this. Actually, you don't need to. You don't. Well, I don't know about other ELU routers, but certainly in the case of the one I've got, this model, it's not necessary. As you can see, it just came out complete, and there's nothing on the top of this one, and so you didn't need to take that pin out at all. So I've actually put that back in. Unnecessary move. So ignore that part of the video if you watched it, if you've managed to get this far, of course, otherwise you won't know about it. So now I'm going to try and assemble it. I've just put the springs and the little pipes or tubes in the top, and I'm going to try assembling it. I hope you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to do this bit first, then I can stand it on its base to do the electrics on the top. I'm just going to poke that in there like that, and I think that should, there you go, look at that, like a job in a town, as they say. Will it work though? That's the thing. Something's happened. I'm not sure about that. Ah, that side hasn't gone in. Make sure it springs all right. You see, I don't think that circlip is really necessary in that side, especially if it's in a table, because it's going to be locked on this side with this handle anyway. I'm going to pop that in now. I hope it goes. I hope I've got the right side. I'm sure I have. See, this will lock it in place, and I don't think the circlip's really necessary. what possible harm is it going to be leaving it out? And it's a fiddle to get in and out. I don't think I'll get it back anyway. I might do, I suppose, but it'd be a fiddle, it'd be bent. And does it really matter if it works? And it's going in the table anyway. It can't go anywhere. I suppose technically you could lift this whole thing off, but at the end of the day, is that a bad thing? You can get it apart for lubrication or anything. So I'm going to have a go at leaving it off for now. So hopefully I've got that bit of it done. That wasn't too bad at all, was it? Now I'm going to put this switch piece back. As I say, I've got my little circlip here, but I'm not going to put that back. If I did put it back, I've got to poke it in there and it looks a fiddle to do, so I'm going to just leave it out for now and see what happens. I might have egg on my face afterwards, mind, but our next job is to get this entanglement put in place, which is a bit of a fiddle because the wires are, I'm not sure how those wires were going. Perhaps it's got twisted. I think it must go like that because it's got to come out of the top. It's got to come out like that because the cable strainer, I'm going to have to move the camera a bit because you can't see what I'm doing there. There we go. The cable strainer has to go in there. So I would have thought that's got to go, it's got to go like that. Perhaps it goes round that way. Ah, that's more like it. Yeah, that's it. The wire's just tucked underneath, I think. That's not very satisfactory, is it? I suppose that's, if that's the way they do it, that's the way it's got to go back in. Because the cable, I'm going to pop it in like that, I think. That looks a right fiddle to me. I don't like the way that's done, but I can't do much else. If you're watching this, you're probably thinking, that bloke ain't got a clue what he's doing. You're probably right, actually. That looks better. No, it doesn't. Still doesn't look right, but I don't think I can do anything else. I've got to find the cable clamp now, which is that piece. Must have gone that way round, I would imagine. Like that. Now, which is the screws? Don't know whether I've got the right screws or not. I'll try those. If they fit, they'll fit. Look alright. God, I hope this works after all this work. And I hope it makes some sense to somebody who's got a similar problem. It might help them. You might get a few tips from it. I mean, it's not everybody's idea of entertainment, watching somebody take a power tool apart and put it back together again. It's not exactly riveting, but on the other hand, if somebody's got a bearing gone in one and they want to know how to fix it, they might glean a few tips from this video. They might not. They might think, well, what a load of rubbish, I could do it better myself. But if it gives anybody a bit of help, it's worth doing, isn't it? That's the thing. I've got to get the cover back on now. That'll be a fiddle, I expect, because I think those wires are going to be in the way. I can't use my if in doubt give it a clout on this because I'll break it. It seems alright. Or not. Give it a clout. 2 screws. This is going back together too easy. I don't like this. Something's bound to go wrong. If everything looks too good to be true, it usually is. I thought it'd be a lot harder. Then perhaps I was worrying about that blasted circlip all the time, which wasn't really a problem in the end, was it? Not if I left it off. Right, there we go. Now I've got the brushes to put in. Now this is something you have to watch. This has happened. There's a little wire there, look, and it's come out. You can't see it very well. I can't illustrate it because it's too dark, but this little blue wire is obviously a loose fit, and it clips down. You can't see it, but down in there, the field coils, there's a little socket, and I've got to poke that into the socket. And if you assemble it without doing that, it ain't going to work. So that's a good thing to note. It's not like these are what they call amp connectors. This one is actually it's a strange looking thing. It's got a little tag on the side. I know when it's for pushing it in. It's got a little socket, which I've not seen one like that before. Right down in there, you can barely see it. I'm going to have to get a torch in there, and I'll do that off camera, I think. You've got to poke that in there, otherwise the damn thing won't work. So I'm going to do the carbon brushes next, which is a bit of a fiddle, because they've got to go under that wire, haven't they? I hope you can see this. It's very tricky trying to film it and do it at the same time. I'm not used to this. Pick that up, pop that underneath. make sure the brush is, there we go, piece of cake, isn't it? God, look at that, even I could do it. That's one in. Give it a twirl, make sure it's working. Feels alright. Then you got the little clamp that goes on top. I don't think it matters which way round it goes, that. Pop that in. It's just too easy, isn't it? I thought it would be more difficult than this. Trouble is, I've done this one, I probably won't need to do it for a long time again, and I forget. Whereas, if I had to do another one now, it'd be quite straightforward. It's a bit like other jobs, isn't it? Like plastering. It's one of those jobs you don't do very often, and it's a learning curve, and you learn how to do it, and then you don't do any for ages, and you've forgotten how to do it again. You've got to start all over again. This little brush, pop that in. Even that's gone in fairly simple. Look. Well, talk too soon. Don't say things like that simple, because it always goes wrong. There we go. Always be negative, and then you're not so bad if it goes wrong. You're not so disappointed. I mustn't forget to put that wire on there. Actually, I'll do that now before I put the clamp on it. It just pops on top of there. It's easier sometimes to get your long nose pliers on and do it. Oh, this video is going to go on for ages. You're going to be cursing me, people watching this. Two little wires. I'll put the clamp on first, and then the little wires. Pity I haven't got one of those special screwdrivers to use on these POS drive or Phillips type screws, but of course it don't work on that. It's only on slotted screws. I don't know whether my old ancient one would work. It might do. Let's try it. No, it wouldn't. Good tip, if you're ever trying to get a crosshead screw in, or any screw for that matter, and you can't, and you want to do it like that, and you haven't got a magnetic screwdriver or whatever, just get a little bit of wax or a bit of plasticine or even a bit of blue tack, shove it in the head of the screw, push it on the screwdriver, and it's a piece of cake. I usually keep a bit of plasticine on the side of my odds and sods box for that purpose, but typically I can't see it at the moment, so I'm going to try and do it the old fashioned way, like that. It's a good tip, that. Bit of wax or anything will do, even a bit of grease if you're desperate. Well, that seems alright. You're wondering, is it going to work though? That's the thing. Well, don't worry, because you're not the only one. I'm wondering that as well. I always think on the worst side. Actually, this job hasn't taken as long as I thought I'd be going on for ages. If it hadn't been for you lot making me make a video to show you how to do it, I'd have finished it by now. Don't forget to pop the little magnet on the top. And that's it. It just pushes on actually. It's not critical. It just controls the speed. Now I've got that horrible little wire there. I'm going to have to get a torch. I'll just turn off for a moment and leave it. Right, back again. I just want to show you this little bit because I don't think you'll be able to see it very well down in there. I've put the camera as close as I can with a light on it. The light might be getting in the way, but otherwise you won't see it. But where this wire goes, it's a really strange arrangement, and in my opinion, considering the quality of the appliance, that's a poor way of doing it. Because what they've done, they've got a little plastic socket that's around the field coil, and they've taken the wire from the end of the field winding and just wrapped it over, a bit like those cheap Christmas tree light bulbs are, where the bulbs have a bit of wire sticking out and they bend it round and shove it in and it makes contact. And basically what happens is, you just push this into there and the side of this makes contact with the wire, but it's not a very good contact. I think that's pretty poor actually. I suppose the idea is you're not meant to take it off at that end, but in this case it's just come off because it's loose, and I think that's pretty poor. It's going to be a right fiddle getting that back in there, so I'm not going to film myself doing it because there's going to be a lot of cussing and swearing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the camera off and try and get it in, and then I'll come back when I've done it. Right, I'm back again. I've got that wire on. My God, that was a job. Whatever you do, don't take it out because you'll never get it back on again. It's a nightmare. I'm still not convinced it's in properly now. It's a loose fit. To me, that's a weak point. Anyway, I'm going to try putting the top on and see. Here's your little speed control knob. Make sure you put that in. Make sure it goes in the right way. It's got two square sides, but it can go in either way. So you need the figures to the outside. So I think that's about right. And just pop that on gently. Try not to pull that awkward wire off. That should just fit on the top there. Hopefully. Typical, it won't go on. Oh, come on. I'm not sure that's right. No, that's not. Yeah, I think that's it actually. Now, the screws that hold that on are the same screws that hold the top on, so again, that's the opening for the speed control. That should fit on there. Do it up. Will it work? That's the thing. I bet it don't work. Think positive, man. Think positive. Don't be so negative. That knob's not in right. See, I've got to take it apart again now. That's because it was a fiddle to get the... See? If anything can go wrong, it will. It's one of Murphy's laws, that is. Never mind. If that's the worst thing that's happened, it's not the end of the world. As long as that wire don't come off again, I bet it does. That is a fiddly thing, that. Oh, I think that's on. That's not. Doesn't feel right to me. Probably something in the way stopping it going down. I don't like that. I know why it might be. It might be that carbon brush holder sticking in the way. Perhaps. Let's try it without the speed control knob. That seems right. I can't go any farther. Perhaps it's just me fiddling. Let's try it again. Try once more. It's a bit of a fiddle, isn't it? There we go. Bet that wire's come off now with all this mucking about. That's not right. It doesn't feel right. I'm going to have to bend that brush holder this down, I think. I think it's that sticking in the way. Let's try it like that. Hope that wire's alright underneath it. Make sure it's in the right position. That doesn't feel right to me. Oh, that's better. Well, it seems to work, that, so that must be about right. I bet that wire's come off again. You wait and see. I'll plug it in and there'll be nothing. And I'll be taking the top off again and fiddling with that wire. You can bank on it. That speed control seems a bit loose to me. Probably forgotten something. Right. I think we have contact. That's off, that's on. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to plug it in. This is very brave of me, I think. With a camera running. Turn it off at the socket. You wait for it. Dare I switch on? I'm going to switch on there. Have I finished everything? I'm going to try it. Hang on a minute. Hey, look at that. What about that then? Speed control working. What could be better? That's better, isn't it? Let's see if the soft start works. Turn it off. Should have a soft start on there. That's not bad. Beautiful. Well, how's about that then? I think that's going to be fairly satisfactory. And if you're watching, I've left the circlip off. So somebody's going to put in the comments now that you shouldn't have done that because it'll do so and so and so and so. But I may be wrong, but I don't see that it needs it. Especially, it's pretty firm like that. It's going to be locked in a table. It's not going anywhere, is it? Because normally I have the little height gauge. Show you this rod here, the height gauge rod, down in through there, which fits on these screws, like so. If you put that in the right position, and that fits in there, and when that's screwed in, it's not going to go anywhere, is it? So you notice it come out that end now. I hope you didn't notice that. That's going to hold it in place. So in this instance, it doesn't matter. But I have to say, looking at it and thinking about it, if you're using it as a freehand router, if you loosen this, it might just fly out of that end. So probably, unless you're putting in a table like me, you probably do need to put the circlip on. I'm not going to bother because I don't think it's necessary. And as I say, if you've got the height setting on there, it's not going to go anywhere anyway. It can't possibly pull out that end. All that circlip does is stop that base coming off. But if ever I need to take the base off now to do anything, if I just undo this and loosen that knob, I can take the base off. That's better because I can get to this nut and anything. So I think it's, I don't think it's really needed, to be honest, especially if you're using the height adjuster. Anyway, that's about it, folks. I hope, I know it's a bit long, it's a bit boring, and perhaps I should have cut it shorter, but, you know, sometimes you watch these things and you think, well, I wish you'd showed a bit more of that. So I did show you honestly what I've done and where I've gone wrong. And as I say, it might give you some help if you're going to change the bearing. You never know. Anyway, that's the best I can do. Bye for now.